I'm typically a dreamer of design, but our sponsor PCBway can turn those dreams into reality. So you don't have a CNC machine or heavy-duty 3D printing. You also probably don't have personal ability to do injection molding or sheet metal fabrication, but you do have an idea for a custom PC tower build to be your end-all, be-all, everything chassis. PCBway offers all of the services you need to manufacture and produce your designs. Check the link down below to get started today. Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt with 86. Now you probably just watched the MC211 video. If not, no big deal. We'll just go over this real quick anyways. So this is the build breakdown of what's in the MC211 tower. Let me just run through it as quickly as I can and I'll explain why I went the direction I did. Now at the time I built this, I had the crucial choice between DDR5 or DDR4 variants. I really wanted to go DDR5 and a 13th gen CPU. However, after going over the cost of what I believed to not be enough of a return for the price I would have paid, I chose to stay with DDR4 and a 12th gen CPU. I went with the i5-12400F. The F CPUs are no onboard video, which if you're going with a dedicated GPU, that totally makes sense to me, and you'll save yourself a few bucks. It's also a very cost-effective CPU that the particular GPU that I'm using should be able to be very advantageous of when utilizing things like resizable bar. When it comes to cooling the 12400F, it's not a very demanding CPU that needs something super over the top. So I saw something I'd never heard of, the Johnsbro CR1400 or Johnsbo CR1400. I don't even know the name of it. It cools well enough, it looks fun, but that's really it. It's a 90mm preset RGB fan, has fins and 4 pipes. It's worth noting it will obscure slot A1 on your motherboard, and I probably won't keep this one in here for too long, but for 28 bucks and clearance issues with the MC211 tower, it was exactly what the doctor ordered for now. When going DDR4 on the 12400F, it only supports up to 3200 MHz, so I went with a 16 gig kit of Vengeance 3200. Where I left room to grow was by snagging a Z790M. It's an MATX motherboard, and if I decided to upgrade the CPU and RAM later in the not too distant future, it gives me a good jumping off platform, especially for its cost when I bought it. Not to mention it supports 3 Gen 4 PCIe NVMe drive slots. I snagged a Kingston 500GB SNV2 SSD. This is going to be my OS drive in my immediate games and applications. Besides this, I also snagged a 1TB Western Digital Black NVMe drive. This will be for my gaming library, and it was hard to pass up on sale for 54 bucks, so I snagged it. I'll overlay my total cost in just a moment, so don't worry about that. The PSU I'm using is Red Dragon's model 007. I chose this one because I already have 2 on hand. One is in use currently, and well, now this one is also. PSUs do matter. If you have a trusted preferred brand, go with what's good and what you know. Something like the PSU 007 will run you about 130 bucks if you go with what I'm using. My GPU, as you have guessed it, is Intel's new ARC A770 16GB variant. I guess at the time I'm calling this new, it's still newer. It's not brand new, but it's you know, it's the ARC A770 16GB variant. The prime reason for all of this is to have hands-on, play games, run tests, and to just really have one and have a chance to watch the ARC line from conception to a hopeful bright future among the beastly Nvidia and AMD. We'll go over the card a little bit more in just a moment. Now, as I've mentioned, I've tucked everything neatly into the Red Dragon MC211 MATX tower. I added some rather cheap static fans from a brand I know called Up Here. It's been a while, and I can tell you almost nothing has changed with Up Here. Knowing this, I probably should have just gone with Asia Horse and gotten 2 of their 240 matrices. These fans are very simple static speed fans with a remote for some mild customization, but not a lot of great stuff going for them still. Beyond that, I snagged the Abno sleeved extension cables for cable aesthetics. Alright, overlaid on your screen right now is my cost breakdown at the point of purchase for each of the items with my total. This includes tax, and yes, this is all US dollars. There are plenty of plus and minus changes that could alter this drastically, and costs in the tech world already alter quite frequently on their own. So take this list or any list you see with how much something costs at this time with a grain of salt, because tomorrow it could be a $20 or $30 difference in any of these parts. So how is it gaming on an ARC A770? Well, this can be hard to put into simple words, and I want to try to keep it as consumer friendly as possible. I have encountered minor annoyances in play as well as just in general use. On occasions I get hiccups, and it seemingly does not matter if what I am playing, whether or not it's DirectX 11 or 12, if rebar is on or off, if I am playing a board game on Steam or competitive FPS game, it occurs at random and without warning. It is infrequent enough, but really it takes just that one moment to immediately instill frustration when it occurs. In casual use, I notice issues with simple things like YouTube. I'll get dreaded audio issues in conjunction with lagged video, and it's a simple fix by hitting pause and then play again, but it's still very frustrating that it happens at all. Intel's forums are flooded with similar and same types of issues, and despite being through 3 driver updates now, none of them seem to address these issues. As far as its ability to actually handle gaming, it does pretty well, and it does well in benchmarks. benchmarks. Let's look at it a little more objectively and compare it with a slightly older gaming laptop, an Asus TUF 5064, which has older but comparable hardware, a 4800H, a 2066 GB variant, 16 GB at 3200 MHz DDR4. Let's find out, will a 2-year-old mid-level gaming laptop outdo the new ARC build that I made? There is no doubt in benchmarks, the ARC build nearly doubles everything from the mobile rival. Numbers tell one story and perception tells another though. Playing or watching on either of these is objectively fine and enjoyable, while the ARC build does technically win in all the categories I tried it in. All the 3D Mark tests show overall massive differences, from Firestruck DirectX 11 even, to TimeSpy DirectX 12, and ray tracing tests. In actual games, Forza was the closest race, pun kind of intended there, but most in-game benchmarks show a staggering difference. All of my tests, with the exception of the Cyberpunk 2077, were on Ultra with ray tracing when available at 1440p, as I felt that might prove the most demanding average base to create a poor man's comparative datasheet from, using something that's really only tooled for 1080p, that being the laptop, really just for 1080p gaming. Went ahead and just bumped it up because I knew it would be capable to some degree of 1440. Moving back to Cyberpunk, neither did particularly well in 1440p with Cyberpunk 2077, so I dropped them both to 1080p Ray Tracing Ultra, and that's how I ran that test. The clear winner was still the ARC build. Being objectively fair, the laptop isn't really tooled or marketed, like I mentioned, for 1440p gaming either, but rather 1080p. My perception of building this and playing on it was comparable to the laptop. And I guess what I learned once it was all said and done was that ARC is a relative boost, but doesn't necessarily even feel like it is in practice. Numbers tell a different story, and I would not dispute that it is easily the champion of the two despite the minor and frequent annoyances that I mentioned. Real-world perception puts them neck and neck to me. But clearly an overall boost behind the scenes leads me to think that Intel is on the right path and hopefully only going to get better from here. A final note is about how that small tiny inconvenience makes half the performance more desirable in the overall scheme of it. The occasional hang up in a game is quite annoying, especially when playing something competitive. If Intel could tackle and iron out what I consider a small issue like the stutter effect or the lag video, well, their GPU line is undoubtedly destined for great things. I hope this was somewhat fun. You guys have a great day, night, whatever it is, and I'll see you in the next video that I do.